taking carbon dioxide and water with the help of sunlight to make oxygen and carbohydrates, food, basically, and oxygen, which is why it's important, because we need oxygen, of course, and we need food, of course. In this case, because of this process, life on Earth as we know it can exist. So let's take a look at some of the parts of this process and exactly how it works. Here's a basic formula for photosynthesis, chemically what's going on. So we have carbon dioxide, we have water, we need sunlight because sunlight provides the energy to power this reaction. The end result is going to be glucose, sugar, and of course oxygen, which we need. All this happens in a plant cell. So here's a picture of a plant cell. You'll notice that the plant cell has some unique features. One of those features is that large central vacuole filled with things like water. And this other unique feature is the chloroplast, this little kind of green organelle that collects sunlight. The chloroplast, that little green organelle, is filled with a chemical compound called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs sunlight. The different types of light gets absorbed by chlorophyll, like red light gets absorbed, blue light gets absorbed, but green light, yellow light gets reflected, which is why we see kind of a green-yellow color on leaves typically. So we see how plants get light. Now the question is, where do they get their water and where do they get their carbon dioxide? Getting their water is easy. It comes through the roots. But what about the carbon dioxide? Plants get carbon dioxide through their leaves. In the bottom of the leaf is a little tiny cell that creates an opening. That cell is called a stomata. It's called a stomata. You can see one pictured here on the screen. That cell is going to open, and when it opens, it allows carbon dioxide to enter the leaf. Once the plant gets those raw materials, what happens? Well, it's a pretty complex series of chemical reactions, but basically what's going to happen is there's going to be some chemical reactions that require light, so those are called the light-dependent reactions. There's going to be some chemical reactions that do not require light, so they're called the light-independent reactions. The light-dependent reactions basically take a water molecule and split it into hydrogens and oxygen. That's where we get the oxygen. The plant takes that hydrogen then, and it's going to use that hydrogen to power some of the light-independent reactions. From the light-independent reactions, we're going to take that carbon dioxide that we got from the stomata, and we're going to add the hydrogen to it so we can get C6H12O6, and that's going to give us our glucose. Plants use that glucose. They need energy also, but sometimes they store that glucose in fruits and roots and leaves, and then that's what animals eat. So we call plants autotrophs because they make their own food. Autotroph. Troph means food, auto means by itself. It can make its own food. That gives you a little idea of how photosynthesis works, but think about it for just a second. Let's say I had some plants and I really want them to grow well. What could I do? One of the things I could do is increase the light intensity, because with more light, that plant has an opportunity to do more photosynthesis. Now, not all plants work that way, but generally speaking, if I can increase the amount of light the plant is getting, the more this process of photosynthesis can take place, the more sugar the plant can produce. Same thing with carbon dioxide. If I could get more carbon dioxide to that plant, it could be really helpful. Or water. Plants need water in order to go through this process of photosynthesis. So if I could make sure it has a ready water supply, I could get that plant to grow. But similarly with some colors, plants absorb light. So if I could get the plant to have the whole spectrum of light, that can help improve that plant's growth, to make sure that it has all these wavelengths of light available to it. But I could do some things genetically. For example, if I could increase the amount of chloroplast so that the plant has more organelles to collect more sunlight, the plant might be able to produce more sugar via the process of photosynthesis. So think about some of those things and how we can make this plant do better by thinking about how the process of photosynthesis works and making sure that your plants have those basic requirements in order to grow and be successful.